Hello YouTube and welcome to another route learning video. On today's video I'm just going to be covering the return journey from yesterday's video. Yesterday we travelled from Glasgow Central to Glasgow Airport on an early morning all-stopper service along the Glasgow Airport Rail Link route. So today we're going to be doing the return journey from Glasgow Airport to Glasgow Central with just one stop along the way at Paisley Gilmour Street. The total distance is just under 9 miles, and the scenario that I'm using for this video is called Dirsuption in Govan. Now this scenario is actually a return journey from the airport to Glasgow Central and back again, but because I've already done the journey from Glasgow Central to Glasgow Airport, I'm not going to be driving the return journey, and I'm only going to be driving half of this scenario. Our attraction for the journey today is a Scotrail Class 380, which is part of the Desiro family of electric multiple units. I did introduce the Class 380 yesterday, but for those who may not have watched the other video, the Class 380 was built between 2009 and 2011 and has been in service since the 8th of December 2010. It was manufactured by Siemens and built at Krefeld in Germany. The maximum speed of these trains is 100 miles per hour, and there are 3 to 4 coaches per train, operating on the 25 kilovolt AC overhead electric system. Once in the cab of the Class 380, there isn't an awful lot that we need to do, so I'm just going to put the train into forward and show you quickly around the cab. So down here we have the combined traction and brake controller, which isn't actually stepped on this train, so it's a smooth operation. And then up here we have a computer display. The main important thing which we look at on this display is on the left, where you can see an arrow pointing to the left, currently pointing to step 3. Now this shows how hard the brakes are applied, or how much power we're applying. So if I move the brake handle, which is stepped, I should correct what I said earlier, the power isn't stepped but the brakes are. We have a 3-step brake on here. So now if I press A, you can see that the brakes have moved to step 2 and then step 1. Neutral is there, and then if we were to apply power, it would go above that into the white area. To the right of that we have the speedometer. We also have down here the TPWS system, which is partly functional on this route, so we will have some signals against us in this scenario, and I've got to make sure that I'm not going above 20 miles per hour when approaching any TPWS loop at a red signal, or the emergency brakes will be applied. Departing from Glasgow Airport, the starting speed limit is 25 miles per hour, and we've got around 1 3/4 miles to go to the next stop, which is Paisley Gilmour Street. Now that we've reached 25 miles per hour, I'm just going to idle the power and allow the train to coast. We will shortly be able to accelerate up to the next speed limit, which is 35 miles per hour, and you can see the 35 mile per hour speed board just coming up now. We will be able to accelerate to that as we enter an arch bridge, which we're about to go over in a moment. It's interesting to note that this section of the line doesn't actually exist in real life. The line to Glasgow Airport was originally proposed to be built, but unfortunately didn't actually get built in reality. But once we've joined the air line just before Paisley, then we're actually on a track that is there in reality. As you can see, we've now passed the 45 mile per hour speed board, so I'm just increasing the power to accelerate up towards that. And we do need to take note now that the signal ahead is displaying a single yellow aspect. So now that we've reached 45 and we've got a single yellow, it's now changed to green. Just around here in a moment I'm going to start thinking about braking. We're about to start going downhill on a gradient as steep as 1 in 68. and the speed limit will shortly be dropping down to 30 miles per hour as we cross the junction to join the airline. The junction is just after the next signal. I am now increasing to step 2 braking. I initially went into step 1, then 2, and then back to 1, and now we're back to 2 again. Now we're doing just below the 30 mile per hour speed limit, which is coming up. I've reduced the braking to step 1 to ensure that we don't coast above the speed limit due to the downhill gradient. You can see that the gradient is levelling out here, and we have just passed the 30 mile per hour speed board. However, we do need to bear in mind that our last signal was a caution signal, so I need to drive with caution as we approach the next signal, which could well be displaying a red aspect. And in fact, you can now see that the signal ahead is currently red, so I am now going to brake just to ensure that I'm not going to be tripped by any TPWS system for going above 20 miles per hour while approaching the signal. As you can see, the signal has now cleared to a single yellow aspect, which means that we are cleared into our stop at Paisley Gilmour Street. I'm now going into full power to accelerate. However, I will idle the power to around 35 miles per hour as the stop is coming up just around this left-hand curve. You can now see the station just coming up. Our stopping point will be at the 8 coach stop sign, which is close to the other end of the platform. So I've now made a step 2 brake application as we're coming in, just to ensure that we're not coming in too quickly. As the next signal ahead is displaying a red aspect, I'm ensuring that we get down to 20 miles per hour in time. You can now see the 8-car stop sign just coming up on the left, and so we do need to stop very close to the end of the platform to be stopped next to that. Departing from Paisley Gilmour Street, the starting speed limit is 45 miles per hour, and we've got 7 miles to go to our next and final stop, which is Glasgow Central. As we reach 45 miles per hour, I'm just going to temporarily idle the power until we can accelerate further. You can see that the speed limit is now going up to 75 miles per hour, and we can accelerate just before we reach the end of this left-hand curve here. We can now go up to full power to accelerate up towards 75. And we do need to watch the signals along here, as we are likely to get signal checked. As I was posting on Facebook last night, I do now have the plans for the next few videos sorted, so the video after this will hopefully be a London Overground journey in a Class 378. After that, I'm hoping to be covering a Glasgow Central circular service in a Class 156, followed by a Glasgow Central to Lanark service in a Class 320, and then finally the last video, which is currently planned, is from Glasgow Queen Street to Edinburgh in a Class 170. I am now idling the power at 75 and watching these signals carefully. As you can see, we are currently chasing double yellow signals, so I'm just going to allow the train to coast and lose a little bit of speed. Should we encounter a single yellow signal, I will make an immediate brake application to bring our speed down. As you can see, the signal ahead is displaying a single yellow aspect, so I have made a step 2 brake application. In fact, I'm now going to go up to step 3 to ensure that our speed is coming off quick enough. We're now passing through Hillington West Station. You can probably see the train just ahead there, which is actually giving us the red signal, which is on the same track as us. Hopefully it should move off soon so that we don't get stopped for too long here. The signal has now cleared to a single yellow, so I'm going to accelerate up to around 30 miles per hour before idling the power and allowing the train to coast until we can see what happens with the next signal. I still want to ensure that we approach the signals at the right speed, don't get tripped by the TPWS system. And also, as I mentioned on the West Coast Main Line North video, if you can drive right and well, you shouldn't often need to stop at a red signal. Sometimes it will be inevitable, but most of the time if you can drive right you should be able to keep moving, even slowly, rather than coming to a complete stop. We're now passing through Hillington East Station. As you can see, our signal has now cleared once again to a single yellow, so again I'm going to go up to around 30 miles per hour and then shut off power until we can see which aspect the next signal is displaying. We're now approaching Cardinal Station, and as you can see the signal ahead has cleared to, it looks like, a single yellow aspect. I am going to continue to coast at around 30 miles per hour until we get an aspect other than single yellow on the signals, at which point I will accelerate more towards line speed, though not up to the full 75 miles per hour, probably closer to around 50 to 60. As you can see, we do now have a double yellow signal, so I have gone into full power to accelerate to bring our speed up a bit. Now that we're doing just below 60 miles per hour, I've idled the power to allow the train to coast as we are still chasing the yellows. It won't be too long now before we need to start slowing down for a number of speed restrictions as we come into Glasgow Central Station. Our signal ahead has in fact now turned to green, so I've just gone into full power again to accelerate a bit more to bring us up towards line speed, though I'm not sure if we'll get to 75 before we need to slow down or not. We do now have a warning for a speed reduction down to 45 miles per hour. I've now made a step 2 brake application to bring our speed down, and that should bring it down about right. I did momentarily go into step 3 there as I wasn't sure exactly where the 45 board is and I wanted to ensure that we weren't speeding. As it happens, I didn't need to, and step 2 would have been fine. We are now entering the 45 mile per hour speed limit. Just as a note that if you do drive with the HUD, most of these speed limits are incorrectly marked when coming into Glasgow Central Station, and in fact many of the speed limits actually come into force on the HUD after you pass the speed board. The next speed reduction will be down to 20 miles per hour very shortly. In fact, as we see a yellow signal just ahead, in fact it's showing green, I believe, no, it'll be the next signal, correction, just around this left-hand curve, then the speed limit will be dropping to 20 miles per hour, so we will need to brake. You can now see the yellow signal which I was talking about, so I'm going to make a step 2 brake application which I've just made to bring our speed off. Just momentarily gone into step 3 and we're now doing 20 miles per hour and we've entered the 20 mile per hour speed zone. Now at 20 miles per hour, I'm just going to allow the train to coast in towards Glasgow Central Station. The next speed change will be down to 15 miles per hour on a signal gantry which actually has a sign on it which says 15 mile per hour all lines. You can now see the signal gantry just ahead, which says 15 miles per hour on all lines, so I'm just applying the brakes just to ensure that we don't break that speed limit. And as you can see, we are now coming into Glasgow Central station. I'm going to now allow the train to continue to coast into the station and slow down a bit more as we get closer to the end. There is a TPWS loop here, and I believe when we reach it towards the end of the platform, we should not be going any faster than 10 miles per hour, or the emergency brakes will be applied. We are now crossing the TPWS loop, so I've just slowed down to bring our speed under 10 miles per hour. We should now be stopped in about the right place. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you've enjoyed the video.